Hey everyone, welcome to Wrestle Inn. I'm Kieran and I couldn't be happier because I'm joined by the newest member of New Japan. He's been killing it on the independents for Beyond and GCW, the Dirty Daddy himself, Chris Dickinson.
Hey, how you doing? Good afternoon. Good afternoon for me. I guess it's good evening for you.
Good evening, yeah, indeed. We've got to kick things off, of course, with New Japan. Debuted a couple of weeks ago now. The surprise new member of Team Filthy. The internet lost their minds. To say it's been a long journey for you to get to New Japan would be a massive understatement. How did it feel to finally step foot into that cerulean blue ring?
Oh, it's only that much more special and that greater considering the circumstances of the world and the wrestling business right now with the way things worked out. It was an unbelievable privilege. So to understand, and to know in myself that happened and I was able to make that happen and will that opportunity into existence over the course of almost the last entire year since March. It means that much more. It's really, really special to me personally. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I have been for 20 years. So it's a big deal.
And obviously, backstage, you gave that really impassioned promo saying you've been waiting your whole life to get to this moment. You put out a really heartfelt message on Instagram saying, people go on about being signed, but this was always the only place for you and you're now where you belong. Can you talk about why New Japan was seemingly the only option for you and why it was so important for you to get to New Japan rather than somewhere else?
Well, to be completely honest, I did a tour of Japan in February of 2020, and I wrestled for several different organizations, independent companies, and I saw how the fans took to me immediately. And I'm not trying to boast or anything. I'm just speaking from what I saw. And the true story is it was going so well. I mean, every show I was on was sold out, selling tons of merchandise, just realizing like, wow, these people really do like me and I have a place here and this is where I want to be. And I was just saying to myself, man, why shouldn't I wrestle for the best company in the country? And I went to a Gold's Gym not too far from the Tokyo Dome and Korakuen Hall and all that. And I ran into a first guy that he recognized me, and he had a mask on. It was Robbie Eagles, and I started talking to Robbie Eagles, and then the next thing I saw Kenta, and I started talking to Kenta, and then I noticed I met El Fantasmo, and he was like super, super nice. And he introduced me to Gato was there and just other people from New Japan that were in and out. I met Jay White was there at this gym, without going into too much detail. And I sort of realized, man, these guys are really cool. Hanare. Hanare, actually, Hanare was a student of a wrestling school I trained guys at in the UK back in 2016 when I was on tour there. So I kind of like linked up with him. We rode the train together. I saw him at the gym and just talking about how great New Japan was as a company and just realizing like there's some great camaraderie there with the boys, and it just all started going off in my head. I was like, okay, I mean, if I'm here on this level, this is my first time here, and I'm getting this type of a reaction from the fans, and this is that awesome. I mean, there's no reason why I shouldn't believe in myself that I could get to the highest level of wrestling in this country. And then the matches started falling into place for WrestleMania week, where I was going to wrestle Minoru Suzuki, I was going to wrestle Shingo, and that's two of the top. I mean, that's first of all, it's two like legends. Minoru Suzuki, an absolute legend. Shingo, I mean, these are guys that are the top of the company. So what better way to be like, hey, New Japan Pro Wrestling, my name is Chris Dickinson. Please watch me wrestle. This is a live action resume here. So I kind of was putting it all together here and here earlier in the year, and then the pandemic happened. So Obviously, that's like a big door shut on everything. I was supposed to go back to Japan two times. I had two other. I'm sorry about that.
No, don't worry.
Yeah, but ultimately, I saw that New Japan Pro Wrestling started the NJPW Strong show, and I was like just like laser focused on trying to become a part of that show and willing it into existence. And really, I would like tell my family, my mom, I'd be like, "Well, you better pray for a miracle. I need to. This has to happen," because there was times over the, of course, the beginning few months of the pandemic where like someone in my position who works primarily as an independent wrestler, it's like things were looking bleak. So, that's kind of like how my road to New Japan Pro Wrestling started.
Yeah, of course. You've touched on a lot of stuff I was going to dive into later, but we'll figure it out as we go. Of course, everyone's now losing their minds and hoping that you're going to get on that plane, get into Japan, and be able to take on the main roster where you belong.
Yeah.
The internet's evidently decided that you're going to be the never openweight champion at the very least already. That seems.
I mean, thank you all so much. I really listen. I believe in myself, and but the fact that there was so much feedback, positive feedback, I mean, that's exactly what you want, right? And so, I mean, I'm reading it all, and I'm just like, I mean, there's no greater feeling in the world after such a year of just dips and dives and downturn. Seeing all those comments and reading all that positive feedback, I want everybody to know, if you clip one video from this interview, I want to say thank you to everybody who truly believes that I will accomplish those things, and trust me, I will do my absolute best. I will work my hardest, and I will do everything I can to make that all possible, because there's no other choice.
Speaking of never, of course, that match would involve, at the moment at least, you versus Shingo, which was meant to take place obviously at WrestleMania week. Obviously, we're all fantasy booking our dream matches that we want to see Dickinson against. I know because you like your older Japanese wrestling, I'd love to see you step in the ring with Yuji Nagata. I know you recently got the signed T-shirt from him, and of course, there's Shingo and Suzuki, like you said, from WrestleMania weekend. Who are you in particular? I know the answer is the entire roster because it is so stacked. But who in particular are you hoping to step foot in the ring with if you get the chance to go to Japan?
I mean, like, is there anybody better than Ibushi right now? I mean, like, he's so nasty. It's not even funny. And I love Sonata too. I think Sonata is incredible. But I mean, I have to say, like, it's like a bucket list goal. Like, I have to wrestle Tanahashi in some capacity. Like, he's unbelievable to me as not just as a pro wrestler, but like also as obviously like someone who represents the pro wrestling. He's special, Tanahashi. He's a once in a lifetime person involved in pro wrestling. I think he's awesome. Obviously, I mean, the best ever. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, how could I want to wrestle Okada so bad. I think Okada at like his absolute best is just the nastiest wrestler ever. Obviously, like, I really want to wrestle Minoru Suzuki, and that has so many more like implications involved that have to do with like my catch wrestling training and kind of wanting to like be in there with somebody that's so important and pivotal in the history of like that hybrid martial arts pro wrestling based style that kind of evolved in the 80s with the UWF and eventually Pancrase and what became like mixed martial arts. So to be able to get into a ring with him, there's so many guys on the roster. I mean, like, even the foreigners, the young lions. I really want to wrestle Suji. I want to wrestle Hanare. I want to wrestle Jay White. I mean, come on, man. Like, you could go on and on. I'm right now, especially from having watched New Japan Pro Wrestling so closely the last like 2 years or so. I personally think right now the roster, the way everything's laid out, it's the best. They just have such a great variety of talent, and look at like night 2 at the Tokyo Dome. I mean, I don't know. I would say that's probably the best contemporary wrestling show I've seen, like match for match booking and talent and everything in years, and of like a newer wrestling show, like just pound for pound, it was just that's exactly where I want to be. That's where I want to be at.
You say about Wrestle Kingdom, of course, Jeff Cobb versus Shingo was absolutely mind blowing. Jeff Cobb had this incredible G1, which seemed to just push him up to the next level this year. And people have always known Jeff Cobb, and I feel like he was just needed that one match to kind of say to the New Japan fans, like, I'm fucking awesome, which he is. And proved it, and then he got into that giant Wrestle Kingdom match. So G1 is such an important part, obviously, of New Japan. Do you think we're going to see Dickinson in the G1?
Man, I mean, from in my wildest dreams, absolutely, I would love more than anything to be a part of that. Just the history of it and how important it is, and that's another reason why I'm so proud to be a part of this company in any capacity. Is the fact that they're still really serious about like upholding their traditions that they've been carrying out all these years. These things still mean something. The G1 means something. The IWGP titles, they mean something. I mean, this is a company that doesn't like run away from its history, or doesn't try to like undermine things. It's a company that's still very much sport based, and seems like a legitimate contest when you're watching it. No shenanigans, no BS. It's pro wrestling, and the fact that they're still pro wrestling on this massively high level that New Japan Pro Wrestling sits on, it means a lot to me, because I love pro wrestling. And do I want to be in the G1? Absolutely. Will I be in the G1? I hope so. It's because that, to me, like you said, it's for some like Jeff Cobb to get to that point where he could have that match at Wrestle Kingdom to prove to the New Japan Pro Wrestling fans, like, he really is there to stay and be a top gaijin. I mean, you got to go to the G1, right? It's the ultimate test, the brutality of the summer, the G1.
No, definitely. I'm praying, at least if COVID clears up, that you can get there this summer. If not, definitely next summer, back to Japan for the G1. But of course, as you said, you had your first tour of Japan earlier, February 2020, wrestled for GCW, Freedoms, and 01 and Dove. What was that experience like? Was it your first time in Japan, period, or just your first time wrestling in Japan?
That was my first time in Japan, period, and wrestling in Japan, and it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. I honestly had no what to expect. Like, obviously, I've been around wrestling for a while now. You kind of learn not to have high expectations, because you always could be let down in some capacity. But obviously, I've worked my whole life to get to this point to wrestle in Japan, and I obviously have high expectations. And Japan is the one place where it's like every expectation you could have, it like far exceeds every expectation. It's better than what you think it's even going to be at its best. GCW is incredibly popular in Japan, and I was fortunate enough to work for 01 Pro Wrestling too, and that's because of Masato Tanaka. And Masato Tanaka, I mean, he is like one of the absolute gateways. Like, he was in the first Japanese pro wrestling match I ever watched when I was probably like 12 or 13 years old, like a wrestling company in Japan, seeing FMW and seeing Masato Tanaka. And so, I mean, he to have that relationship with him, and to be able to spend time with some of my friends from over there, like Masato Tanaka, like Daisuke Sekimoto, and kind of like see more of like their personal lives. I met like Daisuke Sekimoto's family. I got to like, just spend time with him in Yokohama, where he lives. And it was incredible. It's an incredible place. And as far as pro wrestling goes, forget about it. The fans are just on a completely different level of the way that they treat you, the way that they respect you, the way that they look at you, the way that they talk to you, everything. They truly absolutely appreciate what you're doing for them. It is unbelievable, the fan culture and the pro wrestling culture. And just there's no other way to describe it other than it's like a pro wrestling utopia or something. Like that area of Tokyo, all those shops and just everything around it. It's if you love pro wrestling, it's like the ultimate destination.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I've been lucky enough to go a few times myself. See the New Japan towers in the background, and it's spot on. It is unbeatable for wrestling.
Yeah.
It's so
And
good.
steak and
Yeah,
food and just yeah, forget about it. It's the food is unbelievable. You know, the people involved also on the kind of like the independent level who help out, who are kind of involved in the business, but maybe not so much, but are just like around the business. There some really amazing, nice people, like, you know, people that own shops or things like that, or, you know, people that you meet along the way that are just involved in the business, but not so much. The fact that kayfabe still really is a thing over there, and I mean, it's huge. People undermine that stuff and crap all over it here, and you know, in North America, and they don't understand that the way that they do things over there is it makes everything so much more efficient, protects professional wrestling so much better, and it's all it. You know, you can't you don't want to, you obviously want to move forward and be a part of progression, but still like holding on to core values and traditions and things. And I just feel like the pro wrestlers too, on every level, even on the independent level, even guys who maybe haven't received like the best training or went through like say something as amazing or as incredible as like the New Japan dojo system or a dojo system, just the fundamental training and the emphasis on fundamental wrestling period is so much, it's so much greater there that, you know, even on the independent level, the pro wrestlers are so much better. They're just so much better than especially a lot of the stuff that's happening over here now in North America, where it's just like, you know, I don't really even need to get into it. It's obvious that there's so many people involved that it's like, you know, do they really was this guy even has ever these people even trained? You know what I mean? You know.
well, I mean, the proof is in the pudding as well. You say, you know, I asked you who you want to wrestle in New Japan, and you say a young lion, you're at Suji. That's all the proof you need that they build their foundations and the guys are good from the off. You know, the way they're trained.
That's something else about New Japan Pro Wrestling that's incredible to me, is the building of the future. I mean, look at it on both sides. From the LA Dojo, LA Dojo is full of guys that are turning out to be incredible wrestlers, or they will be incredible wrestlers, great athletes. I mean, in order to be a part of this, you have to have some sort of athletic background. You know, it seems like the way that they go about choosing who's going to become a young lion, and it's so respectable that they're treating it like that, and they're training these guys. Look at the way that they're wrestling, and look at the way that they're trained. I mean, it's just the core fundamentals and the foundation is so solid, so that they start here and then it's just nothing but up. But here, where they're just young lions still and they're just building that core foundation, they're already so much more ahead than so many other people who started the bottom. It's because the emphasis on fundamentals and conditioning and etiquette, it's just so much stronger in a company like New Japan Pro Wrestling, where they're really investing so wisely in their future. And look at like some of the young lions in Japan and over here. I mean, they're not just capable of having matches, they're capable of having the best match on the card with pro wrestlers that are obviously way more experienced than them. And so that says a lot about New Japan Pro Wrestling and how much care they put into their future and building their future.
Definitely a spot on. Like, you know, Yuya Uemura competed in the Best of Super Juniors, and he was having stand-up matches every single night of that tour. The young lions over there are incredible. Going back a bit, you mentioned steak. I saw you got a Ribera Steakhouse jacket as well.
Yeah, well, I did. Yeah, I actually loved Ribera. I thought Ribera was really good. Everybody likes Mr. Danger's Steakhouse. Mr. Danger's really good. I went out to a place, fan took me and Matthew Justice out, Billy the Kid. It's kind of like a local, it's like a chain of steakhouses in Japan. It's awesome. Billy the Kid was really good. I ate another one too. I can't remember the name of it. It was another like kind of chain thing. That one was really, really good. I also ate at the pepper lunch. Pepper lunch was really, really good. I was eating steak like every day, twice a day. It was unbelievable.
Talking about the LA Dojo as well, have you had the chance to meet Shibata or train under Shibata yet?
I haven't trained under Shabada, but I have met Shabada. Yes.
How was that experience? Obviously, like, you know, if he wasn't retired, that'd be a dream match anywhere for you and to step to the ring with Shibata.
That is the dream match. That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate dream match for me. I mean, I'm a big fan, obviously, of Shabada, but in a setting of work, you know what I mean. I have to, you know, be respectful and be professional. But yeah, he's awesome, and just from being able to be around him, obviously, picking up things that he's saying or trying to, obviously having to work with him in some capacity based on what I'm doing. It's like, whoa, oh man, I love it. I love being able to be around someone like that who I am a huge fan of and look up to, and can obviously try to like sponge any sort of knowledge off of or try to learn from, because he has a presence. He's a lot bigger than you think in person. He's over 6 feet tall. His arms are huge, and he's a pretty big dude. So I mean, I remember after I saw him like in person the first time, I was like, oh man, like he going at it with him must be a tough go. Yeah,
that would be definitely, if ever anyone could overcome their injuries, I'd love it.
I hope as a fan.
Yeah.
As a fan, not even as a wrestler, I would kill to see Shabada come back and wrestle. I honestly, there's no telling, obviously, what will happen, but I mean, you could only hope for it to happen, right? Just to see him wrestle again, because I just watched not too long ago. I think it was the one from like 2014 with him and Tanahashi. I think it was like March of 2014.
I can't think of it. Go on.
It's like just it's incredible. It's like one of the craziest matches I've ever seen before. It's so good. One of those timeless classics. And someone like Shabada, he's just been in so many of them at this point. Or it's like, and I love the fact that he had the balls to go and train to be an MMA fighter, to take fights, to kind of like go out on his own path and do his own thing for a while there, and came back to New Japan and it's really cemented himself quite the legacy.
Well, speaking of legendary wrestlers, it doesn't take long. You mentioned the first Japanese tape you watched was FMW. You don't have to watch many of your matches or be following you on social media long to realize you absolutely love Japanese wrestling, especially the old school.
Yeah.
You debuted in purple gear in homage to Takada, for God's sake. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know. I think, you would have fit right in the 80s and 90s, walking into a sold-out Nippon Budokan for All Japan Pro Wrestling, So let's imagine you've got a time machine and prime Chris Dickinson can go back to those golden days. Who would you most want to be stepping in the ring with?
It's like so tough because I really am such a fan of so much Japanese wrestling and older Japanese wrestling, and I make no bones about it. I'm open about it, and I'm living my dream here. You know what I mean? And if I can't have a good time and talk about it with other people that are just as interested in it as me, then what's the point? Because that's the thing. I'm always going to be a fan first and foremost in my heart. You know what I mean? So the fact that I get to do what I'm doing and, like I said, even just be around somebody like Katsuyori Shibata, those experiences to me are they're priceless. They're incredible. And yeah, like if I had a time machine, I kind of feel I have a saying. I've said it to a friend of mine maybe a couple months ago. I was like, who am I as a pro wrestler? What do I want to represent? It's like, I want to imagine like I got on a time machine in 1994 and should have been like coming out at like a pancrase event, but I ended up here in 2021 and I'm hoisted into the pro wrestling world now. It's like maybe that's who I am, So I don't know. It's such a tough question because I love so much old wrestling, but obviously, like, man, how could I say like I wouldn't want to wrestle Kobashi, Masawa, or wrestle in that period of like, the 90s All Japan? But it's just the same feeling I have for the New Japan side of things too, with the scene of heavyweights and junior weights that they had. But lately, I've just been like really watching so much 80s New Japan, kind of around the time period of the New Japan UWF, because I've kind of adapted more of a style based in that era. Whereas, like, you know, my favorite wrestlers right now are guys like Takada, or like Antonio Inoki, or Fujiwara, or like Akira Maeda, and it's just, so I'm always watching something different, or always trying to just bring something different into my repertoire. But yeah, it's like my image, for instance, right? It's pretty simple. I don't have flashy gear. I don't have like a flashy entrance attire. So, you know, I look to guys like Shibata, like Antonio Inoki, like Shinjiro Otani, or if you want to really get simple, look at somebody like Bill Goldberg or like Stone Cold Steve Austin. What's the common thing? They all wear plain black trunks, right? But they all have loads, like ridiculous amounts of physical charisma. You know, so I tried to always think like, I don't want to change my look because I like the aesthetic of the pro wrestler. But, you know, so then how do you stand out? And I kind of look towards these guys who maybe their appearance wasn't like as, you know, crazy. And there's so much of that. You go back to that old Japanese style, but listen to the audiences, watch their reactions. Like someone like Kenta Kobashi, right? I mean, that guy just like, he exudes charisma. All he has to do is look at you. Antonio Inoki, another example, Minoru Suzuki. You just get a camera like close up on their face in a downtime of a match where nothing's even happening, and I mean, it's telling you the entire story without even, like, you know, them having to even move. It's just so obviously think of all the names I just mentioned. I'm mentioning all. I don't think it's a secret where I would land and who I'd want to wrestle. Doesn't matter where, what company. You know what I mean? I mean, who wouldn't want to wrestle the Great Muta in the mid '90s? I mean, come on. You know, it's.
Yeah, now about Muto, was you scheduled to face him during WrestleMania week?
Yeah.
Was that actually announced or not? Or
it wasn't announced, but I'll tell you. So GCW booked the Great Muta. There was a huge falling out, disagreement, or something with Sonny Ono over business, over poor communication, whatever. So that was already off the table before the pandemic even was a thing, unfortunately. But it would have been, obviously, me and my tag partner, Joey Janela, and our tag team Slither. I don't know if you know, so we tag sometimes, and we would have wrestled the Great Muta, and we were trying to figure out who his partner was going to be. And there was a couple of different names on the table, and it was going to be incredible. Just the fact that I could even walk on the same canvas as the Great Muta would have been incredible. And just the fact that it was even supposed to happen, whatever, I'll take those bragging rights with me to the grave. Because that's my eye. That's a hero. I mean, I'm still pumped that Muto's still wrestling, you know.
It's crazy that he's wrestling next month at Nippon Budokan against Go, isn't it?
Get it. Win the belt. Please, win a belt. I always have a joke saying with my friends about like American TV wrestling. I'm like, listen, like Hogan, you know, Hogan and Flair just did like a Raw. I'm like, listen, if Hogan or Flair didn't win the belt, I'm not interested. Okay, like, so just put the belt on Muto. Like, I'll be watching, no problem, absolutely.
Man, hopefully that still happens one day for you, man. That would have been unbelievable.
I don't care if I'm wrestling in Japan, if I live in Japan, if I'm not in Japan, whatever my current situation of life is. When the Great Muta retires, when Keiji Muto hangs it up, I will be at the event. There is no question.
I know how you feel, man. I know how you feel. Switching gears entirely, you had a summer match that got great acclaim with Priscilla Kelly, who's of course just signed for WWE NXT, and you've got a big smirk on your face. That must have been great news for you to hear.
Yeah, I'm super proud of her. She's awesome. She and you know, given some of the things that happened to her, circumstances in her life the last like couple of months, she definitely, like, it's just a great story to see her get to that point. And I don't think she will be just like another face in the crowd. I think Priscilla is like a superstar and will, you know, do tremendous things in that world. She's just so perfect for that. And, you know, I really think they got someone special by signing her on. So I'm really happy for her.
I watched another interview, and like early on in the match, she completely just landed on your balls, didn't she? I was watching the match earlier today, and I actually see you go, "Oh, my balls!" as you go for the pin.
That was really bad. That was terrible. That was like some. If you notice at one point, I just went to get out of the ring, like like a natural reaction. I just went to go walk out of the ring.
End of the match.
And I was like, wait a minute, like what? I have to. Just wait. It's okay. And it didn't help. It really was. Like, I know I've complained and moaned about it, but it was like 100 degrees out there. It was terrible.
Of course. In October, you had probably the most high profile match of your career against then AEW World Champion and IWGP US Heavyweight Champion Jon Moxley. How was that whole experience, just, you know, from beginning to end, getting announced, the match after?
That was incredible. And it has so much more to do with everything going into the match. Obviously, the stuff WrestleMania weekend getting canceled was like, I mean, it gutted me, because I had so many incredible matches to be able to showcase myself on all these different platforms, and obviously the matches with the implications of trying to impress New Japan Pro Wrestling at the time when none of this was even like in thought. You know what I mean? It was still just like like maybe this could get them to pay attention to me. So that sucked. But then the match with Moxley and then all of the great press it got was incredible. But most importantly was my relationship with Barnett at the time got tighter, and I started going out there coming out here, because I'm in Los Angeles now. But I started coming out here to train with him, and I would stay with him, and we stayed together for a week. And we just, Harry Smith came, and Eric Hammer, and who was part of the IGF. We all would train together, and we trained catch wrestling. And at the time, Josh was preparing for his bare knuckle fight in Poland. I know that sounds so insane, but yeah, he was preparing for a bare knuckle fight in Poland. So we would train like catch wrestling. We would drill catch wrestling, go over all that stuff in one workout during the day, which was grueling and insane, because obviously we do warm-ups and do calisthenics, but then just the training itself is really hard. And then we'd do like shower up, eat, relax, nap, whatever, and then we train again later on in the day. And at Josh's garage, he has like a Rogue Air bike, a couple of dumbbells, nothing serious, couple bands, some egg weights. He has like a mace thing, a sledgehammer, like bare bones. But let me tell you right now, like, that week got me in better shape and just changed my whole philosophy of training and ideas and things, from working with this guy who's obviously a grappling legend and champion, former UFC World Heavyweight Champion, King of Pancrase, Pride Fighter, all that. When you start to spend time with an athlete on that level who has so much history and all the credentials, and you're starting to fill up your bag of tricks with all these different training methods and all these ideas and everything from dieting and supplements but training. I mean, just that whole period leading up to the match was incredible. And then the match itself, to me, I absolutely loved it. Jon Moxley he's a real one, man. He's as real as it gets. So that whole experience was incredible, and I would like to believe that it lended a good hand, or it worked in my favor with trying to transition into working for New Japan Pro Wrestling as well, because he obviously is the holder of the IWGP US title. So
yeah, much to Kenta's chagrin, but yeah, he is. One thing I wanted to touch on is I was told and then looked up that you used to be a drummer for a metal band, and then I saw your Twitter video of you going away. Do you still play the drums? Are you still very much into all of that, or?
Earlier in the pandemic, I was going hard because I had nothing else to do. Where I live is where I grew up now. I moved back to Staten Island, New York. And I have friends who are all still active musicians, whether I have a friend who's a music teacher, I have a friend who's a professor, I have a friend who's in a band, I have this. And so we all collectively have this studio room that we've basically had grandfathered for the last like 12 or 13 years. So I could go there and I could play drums whenever I want. Earlier in the pandemic, I was like going hard because there really was nothing to do. New York was like a dead zone. You could be driving at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday, and I mean, there wasn't any cars on the road. So I would play drums. But I mean, realistically, the schedule where I'm training now, I'm working out like twice a day usually. Unfortunately, I don't have that much in me to practice every day the way I would like to practice in order to keep up those types of chops, especially when I was playing actively in some of the bands I was in. But I will like go and play with like my earphones in and play along the songs, or I'll get together with one of my friends and be like, oh, you want to go jam on some let's go jam on some Judas Priest songs, or, go have like a fun night in the studio. We'll play video games and jam out to some of our favorite bands, which is obviously, it's just a lot of fun. Sometimes I film videos, but as far as like, unfortunately, I hate to let my fellow musicians down. I'm not sitting there playing doubles and paradiddles for like 10 minutes at a time every morning like I used to. I used to treat it almost like kind of like working out. It's the same to keep up those type of chops, to play that fast. When I was playing in like a death metal band or a thrash metal band, it's like, yeah, I could sit down on the kit now and bust out a few measures. But to do it for 5 minutes straight, and then no, it takes a lot of work. So I don't play that seriously anymore. I listen to like jazz fusion and 80s pop, and I listen to so much different music that it's like my drumming interests almost swayed in a completely different direction with music. Whereas I'm not so much more I still obviously listen to so much like death and thrash metal, but I'm so much more interested in stuff like Bob James and just fusion drummers and jazz drummers that just are so beyond even my realm of understanding. I want to like try to wrap my head around it,
Yeah, no, I mean, I love the film Whiplash, and obviously that's entirely drumming. Like, that blows my mind. But
you play music?
No, I'm wildly untalented like that. Would you ever be interested in like doing the drums for your own entrance music?
Sure, I did actually. When I was with Evolve, me and Jaka's theme song was one of my band's an instrumental version of one of my band's old songs, because it was, we needed unlicensed music, and some of the options they were coming up with were absolutely horrible. The song I'm using in New Japan was licensed to me. It was made by this guy named John Kiernan. He came up with the theme, and I like worked with him and helped him put it together, and he really nailed it and came up with some good ideas. So yeah, of course, I'd love to play on my own song. I love to play on other people's songs too. That would be like the best gig ever. Imagine being Jim Johnson, like back in the day. Like we need you to come up with Papa Shango's theme song. I'd love to be the guy to come up with Papa Shango's theme song.
Speaking of music, your next New Japan Strong match is against another musician, Rocky Romero. How do you know?
Drip. The Chico drip. The Chico drip.
He's obviously a New Japan veteran, and it's going to be your first time in a New Japan ring against a New Japan wrestler. How do you feel going into that one?
Unbelievable. Like I said, I'm obviously a big nerd, so I'm a stickler for tradition, and I love a company that honors tradition. So, I mean, look, Rocky he's won the junior tag belt more than anybody else ever, right?
Yeah,
that's a fact. But I mean, he's former Black Tiger. He's a Black Tiger. When you think of Black Tiger, who do you think of?
Eddie Guerrero.
That's it. No questions asked. No more questions. No more questions. That's it. I mean, like, what do you? That's like you could tell me right now. Like somebody could walk in the room and be like, "I won the WWE title." I don't know, man. Like, being able to say you're a black tiger, that's pretty badass. That's like that's a flex on like a different level of elite nerdism pro wrestling. That's like you can't it's like unmatched. So no, yeah, Rocky is tremendous. And the fact that he's a shining example of, you know, look at how successful he's been with the company and how long he's been with the company. You know, he's one of the original LA Dojo guys, and he's still so pivotal in the company all these years later. You know, that's somebody who's doing their thing on their own terms, basically. Like, you know, I'm not sure if Rocky's ever done any work for WWE or anything like that. Maybe, you know, something that we don't know about, or I'm sure maybe at some point, but like he kind of has more of a career path that I'm more so interested in following, or it's just based on the fact that it's different, it's alternative, and he's still successful. See, everybody has their own definition of what success is. And some, you know, if I could come out of if I could have come out of my wrestling career by the time it's over and be like, well, yeah, I was one of the Black Tigers, and, you know, I won one of the IWGP titles more than anybody else in history, and I've done this many tours, and, you know, gotten the opportunity to train with these people, and it's very cool to me. So I have a lot of respect for Rocky and everything he's accomplished with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and, you know, everything he's doing now to kind of ensure the future of New Japan Pro Wrestling going past the pandemic, even now in these tough times, making sure that this stuff happens. It's incredible. It's very admirable. So I'm really pumped about wrestling him. He was one of my favorite wrestlers, even back in like the Ring of Honor days. So yeah, it's a big match for me personally.
I absolutely love Rocky. I mean, he's been around so long. He was trained by Antonio Inoki for a bit at the LA Dojo, you know.
Yeah, I mean, look at some of these guys, man. The history and the lineage is serious business. It is not, you know, people need to understand like how important some of that stuff really is, how serious some of that stuff really is. To even be able to cross paths with like Antonio Inoki, that's special. To say like, you know, you trained with him, or, you know, he was, come on now, it's just another level.
All right, final question. We always like to ask the same question. We are Wrestle Inn, you know, INN like a pub. So imagine you've got a table at Wrestle Inn. What meal are you eating? What drink are you drinking? And what two wrestlers are you bringing along for company?
Like a table, like the table of three type thing?
I suppose so, yeah.
What meal?
I didn't realize it was like that. Now I'm going to have to change the question on.
Oh, no, it's perfect. It's a perfect question. It's a hard question. It's definitely a hard question. I don't know, man. That's so crazy. If I'm just gonna like just go off and shoot, definitely. Just because of like how hospitable he was to me, and I ate dinner in his home, and he's like one of the best people on earth. Daisuke Sekimoto. Daisuke Sekimoto has to come. And he understands and speaks enough English where if there was somebody else who spoke English, like it wouldn't be like totally weird. So he could totally add to the conversation to be perfectly fine. So he's like the absolute, he needs to be there because he also eats like an animal, and he trains it's like he's a monster. So he needs to be there because we're going to eat a lot of good food. And we're going to talk about wrestling, and he definitely loves to talk about wrestling, and has he's a fan of the good stuff. So Sekimoto could be there, and then I don't know who else would be there. Like it could be anybody, like a hero or a legend, or
go for it, man. Whatever you want.
Oh man, I guess I already kind of like named Sekimoto. I don't know. He was putting over Kobashi so hard. Like he said, Kobashi is like the nicest guy in the world. He said he has a really good heart. And like you see all the other wrestlers like post about Kobashi, like Tanahashi posts about Kobashi all the time because he goes to his gym, because Kobashi owns like an Anytime Fitness now. So you see like a lot of guys go to his gym, and he seems like the best guy ever. And that to me is like, is so nice to see, because he's like my all-time favorite wrestler. So yeah, whatever. Let's get Kobashi up in there. Let's eat. Let's like mix it up though. Like we could eat We could eat Japanese food. Like let's get like a whole giant like pot of chanko going. But I don't know. Maybe like we could also get like pizza like sent over from down the street from like where I grew up, my mom's house, from this place. We gotta get like a good like maybe chicken cutlet vodka Sicilian pie with like vodka sauce and fresh mozzarella. And then I don't know. We could like mix it all together. We could eat like different things and like different periods of the conversation. It could be like a 6-hour shoot interview.
That'd be a sight, man. You Sakamoto and Kobashi at a table, eh?
Yeah, I bet you they'd love it if my mom cooked. If my mom could cook like macaroni and like sausage and meatballs and braciole and make all that like Sicilian Sunday sauce stuff. I bet you they'd eat it up. They'd love it.
That's amazing. Chris Dickinson, I can't thank you enough for joining me. You can follow Chris Dickinson on Instagram at Born Dirty Die Dirty, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Chris, thank you so much for your time, man.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me so much.
Yeah.